All right, Anthony, introduce yourself. Let's
All
get
right, guys,
cracking.
let's do this. I'm excited for this episode. Anthony Angelillo, branch manager over here at Paramount Residential Mortgage Group, the tag team here in Miami Shores. Been in the business for about 17 years now, and we're growing pretty rapidly, man. So Noel is actually one of my new guys. I've been working with him for quite some time, and it's nice to see him join our team. And he's going to
Nice.
dominate the Palm Beach area. But that being said, I'm looking forward to this episode. Ironically, this is what I deal with every single day is resurrecting leads. There is a lot of content, so I tried to dummy this down as the best I can do in terms of getting maybe 25 minutes of good content in here. But you guys will receive, obviously, all of this content later, and that's that, man. So let's get on with this.
Awesome. Yeah. So in addition to resurrecting old leads, we will be talking about condos, and we can't forget about condos in South Florida. They're everywhere. So it's super important that everyone knows how to maneuver these types of deals throughout their real estate career. But before we get into that, my name is Melinda Grimaldi. I'm a real estate and title attorney and co-host of the Damage Control Show. And I love helping you guys get your deals closed. And so a little bit about damage control. If we have anybody new, we created that. This idea was birthed last year, probably in the fall. And we decided, we were saying, how we were doing events. We wanted to do something virtual. And, basically where we excel is when there's a problem on a deal, and we're able to help solve those problems for the parties, for the agents, and we get creative. We get, be able to troubleshoot, right? And we're constantly doing damage control, and that's where the name damage control came up. But we're doing damage control not just in your deals, we're doing it in your marketing, we're doing it in your sales. So today we're doing a hybrid show. We have two topics. We're going to go into condos first, and then we'll get into the resurrecting old leads second. We have really good content for both of these. So if you are not subscribed and watching this live or watching a replay later on Facebook, you need to be subscribed to get our content. So hit us up if you want that information later. But if you are subscribed, if you're on Zoom, if you get the text, that means you are going to be getting these cheat sheets that we created for you guys that are really, really amazing stuff. All right, let's get straight to the nitty gritty. And we're going to talk about condos. So now, why are we talking about condos? I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background myself as to what I've been dealing with lately. And it's pretty common. There's always a loan problem when there's a condo. I will say there's always an issue we need to overcome with the loan. And they're sometimes solvable, most of the time, not always. But the point is that you need to be aware as an agent that you need to collect certain information up front. You need to be able to set the right expectations with your buyers before we get to the week of closing, right? We should not be surprised the week of closing that there's litigation. We should not be surprised that we still don't have a condo questionnaire. We should not be surprised that this building doesn't have enough reserves. We need to collect the information up front. Please, people, for your own mental health and ours. And this is why we're doing this show, right, Anthony?
Oh my God, we deal with this all the time. So yeah, this is big stuff. I'm going to do something here while Melinda goes into detail. I'm going to share my screen. All right, and you guys should be actually viewing our condo cheat sheet, right? Can we see that?
Yes. Awesome. So we're going to go into some big zingers for you guys to understand. But before we do, the concept is this. If you're a listing agent and you're listing a condo, you need to start collecting some information up front. This way, you know what offers are good for your building and what offers are not. Okay. This way you don't put your seller's condo, your seller's property under contract for the wrong type of borrower. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that borrower. The borrower is just not right for this particular property. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, if you're the buyer's agent and your listing agent doesn't already put some of this information in the MLS of what's needed and what type of loans are approved and or not approved for the type of building, then you need to ask the questions before you get your buyer's hopes up and make an offer. You need to ask those questions. You need to get the lender in the loop and look at the documents with you so that you know it's the right type of building. Okay.
Not only that, too, sellers too, Melinda. The seller's agent should be looking at this too, and physically.
That's what I said. The listing agent needs to collect these. As soon as you get your listing, you need to get your budget. You need to know if there's litigation. And that's just a start. Okay. And it's just by asking you a few questions or having your seller ask a few questions. So first and foremost, as a general rule, we all know that when you buy a condo, generally speaking, you need more money down, right? Let's just put that as a general rule out there. There are exceptions to that rule. We'll get into those. But Anthony, how much money down do we need for a condo? Let's just start.
So
based on the type of loans.
That depends. And that's the question that we get all the time. And basically, guys, that varies if the condo is solvent or not, right? And so we want to do our due diligence up front rather than the 11th hour to determine the amount of, percentage down.
Especially if your buyer only has 5-10%, right?
Exactly.
Don't get them stuck in that pigeonhole of a contract and then they can't get out of it after because of some problems.
Exactly.
So how do we know? I guess it's based on the budget, right, Anthony?
It's based on the budget and then
reserves.
And reserves. And I even did this. I mean, I even went a little step further. It's not as pretty as all these other marketing stuff, but this is your formula, okay? This is your secret formula. If I am a buyer's agent, I would memorize this. I get this every single damn day. Does this budget work? Guys, this is simple, divided, and just taking what you look at. So let me go into this, all right?
Are you saying simple mathematics? People need to use a calculator?
Fourth grade math, man.
Okay, so let's break it down. Let's break it down. Simple.
Reserves allocated annually divided by HOA dues, aka maintenance income only. Okay, so this is an example right here. All right, and we are taking $2,640, which is your reserves, and you're dividing it by 26,400 equals 10%. So this works. Okay, this will work. And now I know that I have a shot of getting this Fannie Mae approved with maybe 3, 5, 10, 15% down, less than 25%.
Okay, pause. 10% is the magic number?
Could be 5.
No, reserves I'm talking about. 10% reserves?
Correct.
Okay, reserves, 10% the magic number. What about 9.99?
Can't do it.
Okay, so we know we need 10% reserves to be able to get less than how much percent down payment?
25.
25. And the reason is if you put 25% down payment, you can do a limited review. Am I correct or am I overstepping your?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So what does a limited review mean? Can you explain it to them?
So
I'm going to guide you through this.
So now we're going to have the opportunity to do what's called an HOA questionnaire. The questionnaire is going to be limited to no more than maybe 3 or 5 questions. I believe it's 5, if my memory is correct, versus 33 questions that you're going to have on a full review. Those questions are pertaining to if it's 51% owner occupied. Is it, are they in litigation or not? All of these things are going to really be a factor. So a limited review, and I just had this yesterday actually. They wanted to do 20%. They had the additional 5. And I said, look, let's go limited. It's a sure thing. Nothing's really a sure thing in the condo world, but your likelihood of closing is going to be that much greater. And so we took it limited review. So that's definitely something that I would be focusing on.
So a limited review gives the buyer an opportunity with 25% down to be able to buy into a building that may not have the right reserves.
Correct.
Now, the reality is the majority of our buildings don't have the right reserves. Would you agree on that?
Without a doubt. Now, we just had this scenario, okay? And I'm not going to point fingers, but the listing agent didn't realize that this place was in litigation. And it wasn't even disclosed on the MLS. And we went 25% down. So we're going along the rabbit hole here and everything's great. And then boom, it hits us right point face in the blank. And we're basically, now in a pickle because this place is in litigation. All right. So
let's not jump ahead to litigation because we'll talk about that later because there's more questions I have for you on that and even for myself to understand sometimes. So we'll move that to a later discussion. let's keep with down payments, right? So now we know if there's a problem with budgets and reserves, that's where we take it 25%. That's the only way we can get it done. If there are the appropriate reserves, then that's where we can look at other options. Now, it's very important that the lender that you work with understands the Florida market, because if you're dealing with banks, their processors are not in South Florida, or they're not familiar with South Florida. I can't tell you how many times I've had deals go south, even after I warned the processor, the lender, the loan officers at the big banks, listen, we definitely don't have reserves here. What type of setup have you set up for this type of loan? Because we don't have it. In the end, they never listen to you, and they just go through their motions.
What do you do in that situation? Because I get that all the time. The federal depository banks, XYZ tells us we can do that. I'm from New Jersey. I'm coming down here. I'm buying a condo. Look, man, I don't know if that's going to work. Here's the thing. Go ahead.
It's just being aware that if your buyer is going to use a bank for a condo, you pretty much should tell them that it's not going to work, almost guaranteed, unless you know there's reserves, unless you know it's the perfect borrower, unless you know, even then, like, you don't know what they have, like what's going to come up in those searches once you open the file. So I would suggest for condos to stay away from the big banks unless they're really putting more than 25% down.
Yeah,
obviously I'm against big banks generally because they don't understand our market and they take forever and you can't reach anyone, but that's a different story, right? So but getting back to this, they don't even understand the fact that 90% probably of our buildings don't have the right budget for us. So then we also are going up a hill against someone who's not like on the same page. So now, we know what happens if we don't have the reserves. We have to go limited review, 25% down. If there are the reserves, what are our options?
If there are reserves, then we could do 3, 5, 10, 15, 20% down. So that means it usually.
What does it depend on?
What do you mean? What does it depend on?
Like does it, after there's enough reserves, it doesn't matter what loan it is. It depends on the borrower and what loan they qualify for and how much money they have.
Great question. So you can have conventional, which would be a conforming product, or you can scroll down and you can have a spot unit approval. You can go FHA. So if Fannie's going to approve it, then HUD most likely will approve it. And it's the unit, guys. It's not going to be the physical complex.
Okay. So let's hold off spot approval for a minute. Okay. So let's say there's no spot approval. Let's say the building's not FHA approved. Yeah. Okay. So let's back up. Then what are our options if it's not FHA approved?
And you can go Fannie and it's going to be 5, 10, 15, or 20% down.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now let's take a pause and let's think about this. If you're a listing agent and you have an offer on the table for your condo and you see only 5% down, before looking at anything else, even the price, you got to take, like, where are we with this building? Are we going to be able to get this type of loan in this type of property? And having that discussion, if they haven't asked you for a budget, then they're basically shooting blanks and they don't know where they're going, right? So it might work, it might not. And if you haven't provided that information, unless it's a savvy buyer's agent that works a lot in that building, they don't know. Or maybe the lender that works a lot in that building. So the idea is you need to ask those questions upfront, quickly, before you have your seller sign, because you want to make sure that you're not tying up your property for nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a template that we have that we send out that has the HOA questionnaire full and limited with this tag team condo sheet. And I even break it down through a video going over all of these items so that if they're out of state, they understand what Florida's bringing. If they're in state, they understand the liability of earnest money being jeopardized and inspection and appraisal money. So it's really educating, and like you always say, Melinda, setting the expectations up front. A lot of people don't like doing this because they just execute and then they just see if it sticks. And I won't take a contract unless this is done. I don't want to see a contract in my office unless this is done, because we're just going to burn bridges, and that's really what it boils down to.
So so we spoke about the listing agent side. So you have a buyer, they want to buy a condo. They found something they liked. They come to you, Anthony, I want to put an offer on this condo. What do you think? What is the best strategy? You're going to say, let me see a budget.
My pitch on that is, look, I can be funny about it. I can be serious about it. It's a coin toss, right? So why am I going to jeopardize or compromise someone's money? In my 17 years, what I would say on that situation is, look, I live here in the Sunshine State of Florida. This is what I would anticipate, because most federal depository banks, if they're coming from that side, are not going to know all this. And most state depository banks, they're not going to know anything in terms of Florida condominiums. So I always educate the client and tell them, hey, look, let's get a condo questionnaire first rather than later. Oh, but that's $90 to $200. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's see what this budget is. Let's see the master policy. Let's look at the bylaws. Let's look at everything. Let's explore before we execute on that contract. Then I do a hypothetical scenario. What if we're executed? Okay, now we can compromise your earnest money if we're passing, our loan commitment. Your inspection money is non-refundable. Your appraisal money is non-refundable. They get the picture. So we do all of the homework up front rather than later. And it's taxing, if you don't want to play devil's advocate here, it's taxing mentally, because, all right, that means I got to get an HOA questionnaire on every single condo that I approach. Not necessarily. If I'm a good buyer's agent, I know the condominiums, and we have a sheet, which I really should have showed you guys, that shows if these condos have been approved. PRMG has an actual approval condo sheet. It's hundreds and hundreds of condominiums in the Sunshine State of Florida, and that would also be available to buyers agents that work with us. It's doing your homework, man. It really is, and it's just setting those expectations up.
At bare minimum, a buyer's agent can request from the listing agent, or should be able to request, the budget for that year. Mm-hmm. Not the proposed budget, not last year's budget, not a draft budget, 2020 budget, right? Yeah. And ask, is there any litigation going on? Now, litigation is not a deal killer, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but we could ask the questions. Now, if they don't know, then say, can you get it for me? Because we're trying to see if to submit an offer, but we need to see that first, a budget. And a listing agent should have that one of the first things they pull up on when they have a listing. Okay. So we spoke about our types of loans available. We spoke about the different types of money down, full review of the building versus limited, and why a budget is needed and should be requested up front by a listing agent and by a buyer's agent before making that decision. Now, we mentioned spot approval. Is a question?
Yeah, it's private. It's a really in-depth question, but let me just sum that question up since it's a paragraph.
Okay.
If it's fee simple, guys, then you're all set. You're not going to need, but if it's governed under a condo association, then yes, you're going to need to do your due diligence. So that's a great question. Fee simple is completely different. You're meaning townhouse, villa, coach home, something in that category.
Yeah, that doesn't apply in this scenario.
Go to the property appraiser's website.
Yes. So at the same time, we had a good comment here saying that other things that listing agents should be doing, and they all look really good recommendations there. Making sure you know the application fee, all the parking stickers, decals, keys, all that stuff. Very good, because we don't want to be dealing with that at the closing table. I've had a situation where they don't even ask, if there's a credit score requirement. You got to ask that too. Hey, do you guys have a credit score requirement? How about a down payment? If it's 55, plus community. I mean, that sounds crazy, but I've seen it, and I've been through that. And I had a client come to me and say, yeah, we were, XYZ approved us. And then I looked at it. I'm like, you need a 640. They had a 620 in this case. So, there's approval through the condo association. Obviously, maybe you can get that approval, but you just got to do your homework. That's the bottom line. Exactly. So moving on from doing homework, because doing your homework is always important. Let's talk. You spoke about spot approvals. Now we could do a whole class on spot approvals. But basically, spot approval means getting a building, a unit in a building FHA approved. And there's a certain amount that can get spot approved within the building, right? Because a building can be FHA approved, or you can just approve the individual units. And so basically FHA is allowing for a certain number of units within to be approved for those types of loans, which will allow for us to go less than the conventional requirements to go into FHA, right?
Correct. That sums it up. We are getting blown up here with questions here. Hold on. I want to try to answer as many as I can. Yeah, but that sums it up. And then obviously there's a protocol to a spot approval. It's lengthy. We want at least 45 days, guys, especially with the influx of refis that we're having right now. So we definitely want more time on something like this. But your HUD 9991 form, it cannot be processed until we have that approval. And you can't have an appraisal ordered until we have that as well. So there's protocol, and we have a workflow automation that educates the listing agent and the buyer's agent to what's to come. Because if they've never done a spot approval, they don't know why we can't order an appraisal 4 days into an execution of contract. Doesn't work that way. But that is literally, maybe we should do a show on that. It's a whole different topic.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that with time. So in any event, Anthony, we stopped live streaming while I move on to the next thing on Facebook. Just double check that. Spot approvals is what it is. Now, let me just pull up my agenda because that just distracted me for a second. Sorry, guys. All right. So in addition to budgets reserve the financial soundness of the actual condo association, we have other things to consider with the condo and the loan. Let me see how much time we have. We have a few more minutes. So I'm going to bullet punch list through some of these things so that you could just be aware of them. And then we could talk more later if you have questions. The building must be properly insured. If it's in a flood zone, the building needs flood, right, Anthony?
Yeah.
Litigation is not a deal killer, but depending on the type of litigation and if they're insured for it and who's suing what is going to be reviewed by the underwriter. They'll need some documentation from the condo's attorney, right, Anthony?
Yeah.
Am I summarizing that right?
Yeah.
What type of litigation is a deal killer?
If they're not the plaintiffs, then that's not a deal killer. But if they're being sued by like a contractor, that's you're done, man.
If they're being sued by a contractor, that's also a problem on title because there's likely a claim of lien on the building, and then that becomes a title problem that we're going to need to have the unit released. Sometimes, even if the lender's okay with it, it might still be a title issue, but there's ways around it. We can get the unit released. We can partially pay a little bit of money to get the unit released. Sometimes they'll release it just like that. So there's different options. We just got to be aware that if there's litigations, things might come up. How does new construction condos change the discussion of getting a loan? I know that there's a requirement of the developer releasing control, right?
Yeah, that's going to be non-warrantable, and that's usually 50% owner occupied. Is the condos association needs to be at least 51% actually. So that's a whole different animal, and that is a whole different animal in terms of portfolio lending.
Yes. So then from there, we spoke about litigation regarding construction. Even just construction in general is a title issue because they file notices of commencements, requires us to get affidavits. So if you have a contact at the association that or that contact information is always super important to provide to us so that we can get those lovely affidavits from the association, hopefully sooner rather than later, but they like to leave us waiting till the last minute usually. So the sooner we get the info, the better. One thing to know, if you know of a change in management company, that almost always delays our estoppels. So if you know about it, let us know right away. We can get on top of that right away. The changing of the guards causes a little bit of a friction in getting that estoppel statement out. And I want to remind everybody, the condo docs must be delivered to the buyer. The buyer has 3-day right to rescission. It can be the day of closing, and the buyer has no other contingency left, but if they weren't delivered condo docs, they didn't sign off on that, they can cancel that day and get their deposit back. It's a really tricky thing. So if it's your listing, you want to make sure your buyer's locked into the contract right away. So it's super important. And that those condo docs have so many things in there, little nuggets for you to be aware of. Some buildings require 20% down no matter what, and they could do that. So you need to be aware of that as you're listing. Some require a certain percentage, certain credit score. Some allow dogs, some don't. You need to be aware as a listing agent what's in those docs so that you can properly promote that on the MLS so that you have the right buyers coming. This is a marketing thing too. If your marketing message is wrong, you're going to attract the wrong people. If your MLS is wrong, you're going to attract the wrong buyers and you're wasting your time, right? So just be aware of that those documents have so much information in there, and it thereafter can make or break a deal if you're not aware of it. And it can really just waste your time. None of us want to be working on a deal that's not going to work from the beginning, right? If you would have known about it, it would have never worked. So let's not waste our time. That's the motto of today is like, you really need to do your homework on the building so that you could properly bring the right buyer and seller together to get the deal closed.
Yeah, the extra steps that you're going to take is going to prevent anything from happening in terms of the long haul. You know, that's really what it boils down to. And there's so many extra steps. But I get a lot of agents calling me up saying, does this work? Does this budget work? I'd rather take the time. I know that, you know, how many agents call me up saying, do these numbers work? You guys get those scenarios all the time. Does this work with our ratios being so tight? So it's the same concept. It's just really sitting down and taking the extra 10 minutes and then maybe possibly calling the association. I know that our ops manager physically went down to the association, drove down there, because they weren't getting the answers that they wanted and, you know, being brushed off. So it really takes that team effort. And I know, Melinda, you've done wonders with title because it's hard to get a response from some of these associations. That's where people shut down.
Yeah. One other thing is super important that I think listing agent should do. I've seen a lot of them do, and I like it. If I was a listing agent, I would do it, is they put the application from the association in the listing. They attach it to the listing so that the buyer's agent has easy access. They can see what the requirements are, and it makes for a smoother process. You can't, like, the buyer's required to apply within 5 days, but if they don't have the information of where to go, how do they know what to do? So as a listing agent, that's the way to do it. You provide the information. That's what you're being paid for, okay, is to make sure you have that information. All right, guys. Now, we could probably keep talking about this. If you have more questions, if we have time, we'll wrap. We'll go back to the end.
34 minutes.
Yes.
Am I back on Facebook? That's so annoying. That just happened too.
I don't know. I'll have to look. But with that being said, Anthony, I'm going to have you, yes, it looks like you were back on live. So what I will suggest, let me mute myself. What I'd like for you to do is jump right in to the old leads. Now, last week we talked about CRMs. Okay. And really, we mentioned a little bit about having these old leads in there and how you can bring it back from the dead and all that. So this is definitely your area of expertise. I'm going to let you roll with it, but you know, you have some great content here to share. So let's just get into it.
Okay. So 30 minutes, man, that's going to be cutting it close. All right.
25.
So 25 minutes, guys. You guys can obviously write your comments if you have any questions, because I know you're going to have tons of questions on this. You all have internet leads and you all have referrals, okay? And there's reasoning behind those leads why they have not closed, okay? All we do is generate tons of leads that come into our funnels through landing pages, and then we cipher out those leads to our loan officers internally, obviously. So that's what we do, okay? But how we do that is we create content and we also create workflow automation. And then we have funnels for people to land on and then go through those automations. Now, let me break that down. Okay, you guys all have CRMs, all right? Customer Relation Management System. Every single person here should have a CRM. It should be your personal CRM. If you don't have your own CRM, I would get one. Follow Up Boss, great CRM. But these leads that you guys are talking to, okay, there's there's reason why they have not purchased. And that's what you really need to boil down. You need to really look at the bigger picture and ask their why, and why are they not purchasing. All right. So I've broken this down, and I'll go into this in detail. We don't panic on any scenario. All right. We're not salivating through the mouth here, looking at a commission saying, oh my God, I can pay this bill, I got that. We don't operate that way. So we're very, in terms of calm and cool and collected, we are that way because we have automation doing our work for us. So the first rule of thumb is you don't want to panic. All right. That's the worst thing, because you can sense that, and you can hear the tonality in that other person's voice. And you don't want to, deliver that negative mindset and that scared, delivery. You can hear that over over the phone. So it's important that you respond with an even tone, and that you do not give them any guilt trips when you're calling these contacts. Okay. So if you're just slamming the phones right now and, hey, are you willing to buy, or what are you looking at? The reason why they have not purchased is either because they were disenchanted by your service, our service, title service, anyone in that roadmap to homeownership. Something went wrong, but no one takes the time to really analyze the full entire loan process, or in this case, what would be called a workflow. All right. And if you don't have analytics in your CRM, you're not going to know. It's the blind leading the blind. So you don't know what they're looking at, what they're clicking, how they're clicking, who they're forwarding it to. So that helps. That's what Facebook and LinkedIn have. And those are the analytics that you guys should be pulling. All right. Let me go into 4 here. You're not going to harass people. A lot of people always say to me, look, how many times do you call this client? We call 6 to 9 times, but we're not randomly calling asking for DNA samples. All right. We have a method that triggers that consumer's pain point. And if it's going to be income, then obviously we're going to send something out in terms of income and how they can possibly, increase income. Or if it's credit, we're going to send a piece of content out through automation that's going to be related to credit. Then we watch the analytics, and then we engage. And that's when we go in and we dive deep and try to help out. All right. We never are dishonest. We're very humble and honest on our approach. We're very optimistic. Hence the deals that we're closing today. Ironically, the one that Melinda and I are closing, that gentleman we worked with for, I think, Dana, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 8 months that we worked on that file. So that is part of our roadmap. It's not because we just randomly had a deal and we closed it. We guided them. We nurtured them. We communicated with them. We had automation help us out, but we were really, really spot on in terms of what we needed to do, and that was credit. So you got to really analyze, guys. So let me scroll down here, right? These are the ways to bring back people from the dead. All right. Send product or service updates. Okay. Do not generalize it. I personally wouldn't grab content from online and then just share it. I would personally sit down, create your own content, make sure it's compliant. If you have to go through legal, then obviously go through legal. I personally don't talk about rates or programs because then I know I have to go through legal. I don't talk about that. I talk about pain points in our industry on what we can alleviate, and we then trigger that with a workflow automation. And so what I do is I send a text message, I send an email, I send a video, okay? And I pre-record these. Everyone can do this. Vidyard, BombBomb, all of your CRMs have these capabilities and automations. If they don't, then obviously you can give us a call and we can recommend some of these automations for you. But if you're not doing ETCV, email, text, call, video, and voicemail, you're not going to convert these leads. I promise you. Okay, I promise you. I have a new gal here. She's in the other room, and I basically tell her every single day, look, you really need to email, call, text, and communicate properly, and you need to read analytics. She's finally reading the analytics, and she was blown away how many times that they were watching her video, okay? And that is creepy if you think about it, but 8 times later, watching the video, that person's interested. They want to buy. Why aren't they moving through the milestones? That's what we need to figure out. What is their why and what is their objection? And if you can handle the objection, then you can obviously, handle why they're buying, and then you can convert that lead. So triggered events, we use that. Marketing is amazing. So we always trigger and we identify new prospects, and we use powerful tools to create that content. And this gives them excitement. They are deflated usually when they come to us because they've either been rejected multiple times or they went through the condo process and they lost their money, because I have a deal literally closing next week and they lost their earnest money deposit because there was not enough liquid reserves in the budget. So they're deflated. So what do? We pump them up and we make them feel excited, warm and fuzzy. Our tonality is upbeat. It's, we're a team effort. Noel said this the other day. We're the Tom Brady's of the world, but we don't win 6, Super Bowl rings without a team. Okay, it's not the Angelillo group. It's the tag team. It's Grimaldi law firm. Her team does this, right? So very important that you guys understand that. And when you go and you approach these leads, do not call them sounding dead. You need to have that upbeat personality. We offer promotions. What do we do for promotions? We do any discounts, possible free appraisal, flat fees. And then we ask real estate agents, are you willing to contribute to the cause? Are you willing to give XYZ from your commissions? This person is in a lease. They need to breach their lease. Are you willing to give 1% of your commission in order to breach their lease? There's ways to make things work. Okay, there's nothing illegal about that. You can actually ask them, hey, look, when's your lease due? Next year. Well, rates are XYZ. You might want to think about purchasing. So there's promotion and ads and content that we send to them to engage with them and pique their attention. So then now they're engaging back via text messages or direct messages through Facebook, whatever the case is, whatever you guys are using. We are integrated with everything: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. It's all one service and platform. So if you have a CRM, you're probably not going to be integrated with those social medias. But if you're using text messaging capability, then you should be analyzing that. Okay, very important. The pieces of content that we send out, and I have all of this for you guys. I preset it all up for real estate agents. You will receive this. You don't have to create the wheel. I would just tweak a couple things if I'm in your shoes. But these work for us. These are our highest conversion rates, is the one that goes through text messages. We do what's called a double tap. If they don't pick up, we call them back instantly. And if they still don't pick up, we send them a text message, which is attached with a video. All right. And this is the content that we provide here. We give links for them to select. The link could be an easy PDF flyer that they download. In that PDF flyer, there's content pertaining on down payment assistance. Okay, let's say that they have bad, they don't have enough funds in the bank. They have 5,000, they need 20,000 to close. So we're now sending them down payment assistance. Right. So this is something that I would really look at. But the delivery, as I always tell Melinda, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's your delivery approach. You don't want to come across saying, I just left you a message, pick up, or hey, give us a call back, or even if you've built a rapport with this person. Okay, it went stale for some odd shape or form. There's some reason that went stale. And as I always say, time kills deals. You don't want to elongate the entire sales process. You want to strike while it's hot. And being that we're in a hot market right now, now's the time. So if you guys read this, okay, today it went straight to voicemail. I plan to cover XYZ during this call today. What were you going to talk about? You've piqued their attention. I specifically state that because I want them to think. Okay, I want them to read that in their car, and now they're thinking and they're saying to themselves, okay, you know what is this guy talking about? What does he have that we have not talked about 6 months ago? Okay, so you've stated the facts from one slide, you've added a value proposition, all right, and you're offering to reschedule an appointment. My team offers 2 times. The reason why we offer 2 times is they're going to pick one, okay? If you offer them 1 time, no, I'm busy at that time. Next. So we offer them 2 times, 4:30, 5:30. When are you free? Okay, so this tactic works, and now it's going to bring back a lead to re-engage on the phone. At that time is when you need to close that person. You need to find out who that decision maker is. You have to understand what was the reason and why they did not purchase, and wrap that up. Here's another prospect. Okay, I was unable to reach you. Avoided the meeting today. I freed up some time, unexpectedly spaced, so I'm busy. My time is valuable, just like that client's time is valuable. I've created time for you to talk. If you're not going to be available at that time, please let me know. Right? So they're going to respond. Anyone that has a heart is going to respond and say, I'm sorry, I can't make it. I'm not with my husband or my wife. I need my father or my mother in this decision. Is it okay if you call me at 7 or 8 o'clock? Okay, maybe the reason why it didn't close the first time is we didn't talk to the mom or dad. Okay, who was the decision maker in that process? Did you alleviate every single pain point from that consumer? Was it the product? Was it the rate? These are the questions that you need to ask these clients. Okay. Re-engage in old leads. Keep your eyes open and appeal to that client. What is the reason why they're not purchasing? Try to remember the obvious. What is the obvious? The obvious would be if they're looking at your down payment assistance program, okay, then obviously they're into down payment assistance program. The reason why my first email that goes out has 5 hyperlinks on it, anyone would say that's too much content, they're gonna choose a hyperlink. Whatever they choose and they look at and they view that hyperlink several times, now I know what their interest is. Okay, same thing with Amazon. If I go in and I look at a product and it's in my cart, you're constantly getting reminded, hey, you forgot to buy the shoes that you were supposed to purchase 6 months ago. You know what they're looking at. So it's all about analytics, right? Let me scroll down because we're going to run out of time here. Step 1, research before you start. We research everything before we start. Yes, we stalk every single client. It is scary, but I need to know what I'm going into. I talk to my agents and I tell them, look, I need the Cliff Notes version. Are they pre-approved? They are. Who are they pre-approved with? What was the interest rate? Do you have a loan estimate? What's the reserves? I ask everything. I want to know what I'm going into. So I'm putting my feelers out. When I'm talking to these leads and they're old, the questions that I ask them are feeler questions. They're open-ended questions. They're gonna respond. If it's a refi, I'm gonna ask the question, do you have equity in your house? Do you have, what do you think your credit score is? When was the last time you purchased? Do you know that you have equity in your home? If I'm looking on our, consumer reports and I can see that, hey, this person has equity, then I'm going to disclose that to that person. If their credit was pulled, yes, we can know that their credit is pulled. Then I'm going to contact that person and say, hey, look, we thought about you. There's analytics for all of this, all right? But if you guys have leads, then that is what we do best is these leads come in and we set up a workflow automation. That
hang on, because even for like if they have a lead for a listing, right?
Yeah.
They can call 6 months later. Hey, I just wanted to check in. I haven't heard from you. Did you sell your house?
Without a doubt.
That's all you got to say. Oh, hey, I haven't spoken to you, in a while. I just want to check in. Did you end up purchasing? It's as simple as that, and just start the conversation.
That's it. But there has to be value. I know that there were several people on damage control that said, look, content value, it's all content and value. What is the content you're pushing out? Who is your consumer? What are they interested in? What's the value proposition? If you don't have any of that and you're sending out templates that are generically automated through BombBomb or Commissions Inc. or all these places, and you can't tailor them, it's not going to work. That's generalized into sales, not real estate, not loans. So that's where our system is complete opposite, but very important when you're re-engaging with these clients. There's reason why they haven't purchased. Our method is a 4-step workflow process. So if you guys don't know what a physical workflow is, email, text, okay, could be a video that goes out, could be all the above, they could be intertwined, there's no sequential order. The content that we provide is going to be pinpointed on that consumer. And then we also update our agents. I can't do this without the agents. The agents are gonna sell better than I'm going to close, because if that makes any sense, guys, let me use this for an analogy. looking at a home without a pool, but a backyard that has a pool that they can put in. Okay, I am going to now close that client and say, look, this is the house that you wanted. It doesn't have the pool, but it has the backyard that your agent's trying to find. It's very difficult in a seller's market right now. So now I'm closing that client. I need the agent to basically contact these leads as well. So you guys have leads. You're not going to close them by calling them and saying, hey, let's just drum up everything and make it a Saturday submission Saturday. You need your agent to anyone that you're working with, agent, lender, they both need to be calling at the same time. I'm going to send out 10 emails to XYZ client. If you get a call, let us know. Okay, very important, because people set up these workflow automations and then they're not communicating with the agent. And if something went wrong, the agent doesn't know, and the agent has your back to resell that client and bring them back to the drawing board. So there's a lot that goes into this. And I can sit here for 3 hours and go over 3 sheets that I have, and they're all different sheets: re-engaging old leads, what to say, the text messages that need to go out, the content that needs to go out. In reality, guys, upbeat, you need to bring the value proposition, you need specific content that goes out, and you need a strong CRM, okay, a strong CRM. I'm going to leave it at that at this point. Because I got everyone's head spinning at this point. This is a lot of information. This works. If you guys watched my social media yesterday, okay, a loan estimate came in, an itemized worksheet came in. It was a disaster. And the concept here is that you've really taken a client now and have deflated that client and dragged them through the mud because they were never approached with rates. They don't know the numbers going in. They were denied multiple times through 4 or 5 different properties. So, you know, it's like showing them a Maserati 15 times and saying, sorry, buddy, you can only qualify for a Honda Accord. You're killing someone's mojo right there. So all of this is why leads aren't closing. Okay. All of that, it all is intertwined into one. So your delivery from the get-go needs to be this, and it needs to, you got to put your feelers out and really understand what that client's looking for and what their why is.
It's super important in any type of sales, right? Is knowing the why are they doing that, and selling the future to the client, and not the widgets. So guys, we're open for questions. You could ask questions on sales, re-engaging leads, condos. We have a few minutes left, not too much time for questions, but we're happy to break things down for you. In the meantime, while we wait for questions to come in, we have these lovely worksheets, the condo ones and the sale ones, that will be sent to you after. I know we got a couple questions on that, so they will be sent to you after the show. If you're RSVP'd, actually not RSVP'd, if you're subscribed to the Damage Control show, and you're subscribed. If you're on Zoom, you're subscribed. If you're on, if you get the text messages, you're subscribed. If you're watching on Facebook, you're not subscribed. So check it out later, and subscribe for the show, and we'll get you the information.
There's someone on here right now that's watching, and she knows who she is. And there's a client that we're working together with, and this person has been through multiple properties. In that scenario, what I would do for the second time is call that client and set up a Zoom meeting. Okay, re-engage with that client, go over numbers the 4th time, the 5th time, the 3rd time, whatever the case is. That is truly tag teaming a deal. That's taking a step further and understanding that person and understanding what their needs and wants are. That's all it is, re-engaging with that client. But if you don't have an agent to do that with, then it's very difficult to do it by yourself, because if you're the person that burned the bridge or something happened, then your value proposition, your credibility has been shot at that point. So you need someone to second voice. That's why my team, I have 3 people that second voice my deals. And I do that because more people in this office, some are passive rather than aggressive. Some are more articulate rather than, outside the box thinkers. There's different attention spans, hence mine. And so I'm good at an upfront delivery. And then I have that segued into 3, 4, 5 people piggybacking off of that. Okay, that is what's called 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th voice. Same with the way Melinda operates. She's got an entire team that operates with her, I should say. So in that case, guys, you really need to engage. So meaning, hey, Ann, Could you call this client? They're looking on my listing right now. They've been looking several times. Can you just give them a call to say hello? Okay. That you see how far that goes. I guarantee you that a second voice. Melinda just had this yesterday. She sent me a client that's moving from California. This client can't buy right now, but we set up, we had her get a pen and paper out and we said, all right, let's take some notes. And she was so thankful. She said, you gave me a goal. You gave me something to look at. All right. And it's probably going to be 6 months from now, but that's what it takes, guys. That's re-engaging your old database on all of these leads that you guys are nurturing, but taking the time and slimming down the 500,000 leads you have and maybe bringing it into a list. We're doing Melinda and I are going to be doing this. It's going to be a challenge, and we're going to challenge our real estate agents to bring us 10 of their challenged leads that they didn't close. And we're going to build that workflow automation for that agent. And then we're going to cipher that through. It's free, but this automation is working for us and it's working for Melinda and I. And we want to share that content because it's valuable content that is engaging with these clients. So
stop the screen share. Stop the screen share. We're done with the screen share. So this is more engaging anyway. Yeah. So if you guys, how do we do this challenge, Anthony? Is there like rule set up, or is that coming in a little bit?
It's coming. Anyone that's subscribed from DC, that's who's going to be getting the content. That will be
awesome.
In 2 weeks, but it's badass. It's pretty cool
stuff. Love it. So we're also looking, for next week, we're opening up for suggestions on topics to see what you guys want to learn about next week or what you want to hear us talk about for next week's show. So if you guys have any special requests, you can send us a private message or text us or DM us later. With anything that you guys really think is that you've been seeing a lot of lately. We have a couple topics ourselves, but kind of wanted to open that up for you guys to see what you want to learn about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think it's better so that people, I guarantee you people want to learn about what we just went over, then some. I mean, we could do hours and hours of leads. We could do hours and hours of condos. I mean, there's a lot that goes into our business. But yeah, whatever you guys want, let us know. DM us or hit us up. And then anyone on Facebook that had any questions, because we did go live and then we.
I don't think so. Because we kicked a lot of them off when we stopped going live. So we lost our viewers, but it's okay. They'll watch on replay later, the rest of it. All right, guys. So if there's no other questions, that's a wrap. Episode 20, all done.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Have a nice weekend.